Now, the sad news that the film star Val Kilmer, who played Batman, and Jim Morrison, as well as starring in Top Gun, has died at the age of 65. His daughter told US media that he'd been suffering from pneumonia, and he died on Tuesday in Los Angeles. She said that her father had been diagnosed with throat cancer in 2014, but later recovered. Liza Mazemba looks back at his life and career.
The 65-year-old actor Val Kilmer passed away. Kilmer, who is well known for his iconic parts in movies like Tombstone, The Doors, and Top Gun, was more than just a Hollywood hottie. He was an ardent artist who gave his all to each part. However, it wasn't just the announcement of his departure that sent shockwaves through the internet. His ex-wife, actress Joanne, gave an emotional farewell speech that resonated with anyone who ever followed their story. Her words weren't just a statement, they felt like a final love letter. But before we read her timeless message, let's take a moment to reflect on the man who created the legend. Val Kilmer was a young man with a dream, long before he was famous, before he walked the red carpet and starred in big-budget movies. Kilmer was born in 1959 in the center of the entertainment industry in Los Angeles. However, early tragedy influenced his childhood. Wesley, his younger brother, who loved filmmaking as much as Val did, drowned when they were still young. Val was profoundly affected by that loss, which further drove him into the realm of performance and imagination. Although it increased domestic instability, his parents' divorce when he was only 9 years old also appeared to strengthen his resolve. He met future celebrities like Mayor Winningham and Kevin Spacey while he was a student at Chatsworth High School. Val was notable even in those days, though not only for his attractiveness, but also for his serious approach to acting. Kilmer was the youngest person ever accepted into the drama division of the esteemed Juilliard School at the age of 17, proving that his seriousness paid off. That was no small accomplishment. Val not only survived but flourished at Juilliard, which was notorious for its fierce competition and ruthlessness. The craft was his obsession. His classmates claim that he would work on scenes for hours on end, revising lines and thoroughly researching characters. His motivation was the art, not the fame. He carried that mentality into the remainder of his career, which influenced not only the roles he played, but also their execution. And it was precisely this drive, this unrelenting quest for excellence, that brought him to the big screen. He was Val Kilmer, and although Hollywood was unaware of it at the time, a storm was on its way. In 1984, Val made his big screen debut in the humorous, satirical film Top Secret, which showcased his musical abilities and comedic timing. In the movie, he sang himself and played a rock and roll spy, even in a humorous role. Although Val was totally committed, it wasn't until 2 years later that he landed the part that made Hollywood take notice of him. Top Gun, 1986. Kilmer initially didn't want to play Iceman because he thought the character was underwritten and the script was flimsy, but he accepted the part out of duty to his contract and went on to establish one of the most famous rivalries in film history. His icy, self-assured performance opposite Tom Cruise will never be forgotten. Kilmer then demonstrated his ability to go farther. He completely changed to become Jim Morrison in the 1991 film The Doors. He sang all by himself once more, and his performance was so convincing that even the band's surviving members found it difficult to distinguish his vocals from Morrison's. Val didn't hold back in this demanding role. He studied Morrison's breakdowns, habits, and poetry. Val was just that, someone who became the soul and body of the character. Batman Forever followed in 1995. Kilmer realized there was a lot of pressure when he stepped into the cape and cowl after Michael. His Batman was more inward-looking. He examined the loneliness concealed behind the mask by delving into Bruce Wayne's psychology. Although Kilmer and director Joel Schumacher had a falling out behind the scenes, the movie was a box office success. Nevertheless, he produced a version of The Dark Knight that continues to be discussed by fans today. Kilmer's finest performances, however, were in parts that weren't frequently highlighted. An excellent example is Tombstone, 1993, in which he gave one of his most memorable performances as Doc Holliday. Decades later, the phrase "I'm your Huckleberry" is still used in popular culture. He portrayed an FBI agent discovering his Native American heritage in Thunderheart, 1992, a film acclaimed for its profound themes and compelling narrative. Additionally, he demonstrated his versatility and intensity in Heat, 1995, by competing with acting greats Robert De Niro and Al Pacino in certain scenes. However, a much darker chapter was subtly beginning while the world witnessed a star rising behind closed doors. Rumors started to circulate in 2014 that something was wrong with Val. The fans noticed something wasn't quite right when his voice changed and his face appeared thinner. Kilmer, however, remained silent because he wasn't prepared to share his experiences with the world. He denied the mounting rumors about his health for years. When questioned, he shifted the topic, but Val was secretly battling throat cancer. He fought it largely in secret until 2017, when he made the public confirmation. Everything changed after the diagnosis. He required 2 tracheostomies, radiation, chemotherapy, and aggressive treatment. These altered his way of life in addition to causing him physical pain. For someone whose identity had been so closely linked to performance and expression, the change was profound. His voice was all but gone, speaking became challenging, and eating became a struggle. His career also stagnated, in addition to his health. There were fewer roles available, directors were unsure of how to cast him, and some projects quietly went on without him. Additionally, it seemed for a while that Hollywood had also moved on. Val's heart and mind, however, remained constant, despite his physical changes. He continued to write, to appear, and to believe that his story was far from over. Nevertheless, the actor's spirit continued to be louder than ever, despite cancer silencing his voice. Val decided to turn the camera on himself, when most would have given up. Val did what few would dare to do. He opened the door to his entire life rather than withdrawing. He released a documentary in 2021 with the simple title, Val. This was unvarnished, truthful, and authentic. It wasn't edited to make him appear flawless or produced by a large studio. From his early years as a drama student to his behind-the-scenes experiences on enormous movie sets, Val had been chronicling his life for decades. With his voice hardly audible above a whisper, he handed over the hours and hours of footage he had and shared his story. What came out was a portrait of a man who never stopped being an artist, even when the spotlight faded. We saw young Val wide-eyed and passionate. We saw the Hollywood star at his peak, and we saw the father, the survivor, the man who still had something to say even if he couldn't say it the same way anymore. When Val was unable to continue narrating the documentary, his son Jack took over, speaking his father's words in his own voice. The outcome was incredibly poignant. Viewers saw the man and his vulnerable moments in addition to the actor. The suffering, but also the film's humor, pride, and love. Val discussed coming to terms with everything that had happened to him. He wasn't chasing the past, instead he had come to terms with his fame, hardship, and illness. By doing so, he made a connection with a whole new generation of people who respected him for his life as well as the roles he played. Someone from Val's past, however, was getting ready to say goodbye in the most heartbreaking way while the world listened to his story. While working on the fantasy film Willow in the late 1980s, Val Kilmer and Joanne got to know one another. They were Hollywood's quiet power couple for a while. There were no dramas or scandals, just 2 actors with a family. Mercedes and Jack were their 2 children together, and even after their marriage ended in 1996, there was still something unique about them. Val and Joanne remained close, in contrast to many celebrity divorces that ended badly. They were respectful co-parents who eventually grew closer to one another. That connection never truly dissolved. Joanne was there for Val in his last days, not for the media or the cameras, but only for him. She paid him a visit out of the public eye. It was emotional, according to friends close to the family, as 2 people who had shared so much were saying goodbye, and then she sent her message, "Every room had you as its brightest light, and I can still see you shining today." That single line, which was shared by a close friend and then shared online, went viral. It reminded everyone that beneath the celebrity, the Batman suit, and the Top Gun swagger, Val was just a man who was adored by someone who knew him outside of the spotlight. It didn't feel staged or polished, it felt genuine. And as her remarks spread on social media, people all over the world became aware of Kilmer's profound influence. From Robert Downey Jr. to Tom Cruise, the tributes continued, and Hollywood reacted quickly after word of Kilmer's death spread. In a heartfelt post, Tom Cruise, who had reconnected with Val in Top Gun Maverick, referred to him as a gentleman and a legend. Even actors from his lesser-known projects came forward to share what Val meant to them, and Robert Downey Jr. referred to him as the most honest performer he had ever seen at work. The director of Batman Forever, Joel Schumacher, once remarked, "Kilmer brought something haunted and beautiful to every role." Fans posted videos about how his story of resiliency inspired them, artists shared drawings, editors pieced together fan-made montages, and social media became a tribute wall. The same quote was shared thousands of times. Not just celebrities, though, recalled how his films affected them, how he gave voice to the voiceless, and how he consistently added nuance to even the most ostentatious parts. His legacy consisted of being felt as well as famous. Val reminded us, even in death, of the strength of love, vulnerability, and creative bravery. Val Kilmer was not flawless. He had difficulties, made poor decisions, and led a lavish life, but he never wavered from who he was, and that is what people recall, not just the parts, but the person who played them. It's your turn now. Tell us about your favorite Val Kilmer moment in the comments section below. Doc Holliday? Was it Iceman? Perhaps something more intimate, such as the way Val moved you? For more authentic tales of the heroes who influenced our lives, please hit the like button and subscribe if this story resonated with you. Val, you will always be remembered. May you rest in peace.